Welcome to the Community Clinical Care Podcast, broadcast from Shropshire in the UK. In this episode, we're going to be discussing hot debriefs, and in particular, we're going to look at the system called Stop for 5 minutes, which is a really simple system for a clinical or at the time hot debrief in a way that's going to be constructive, inclusive, and hopefully come up with some conclusions that are enacted to improve patient safety or clinical practice in the future. So the idea of this is to immediately after an incident, or as soon as possible after an incident, when it's still fresh in everyone's minds and there may be people emotionally affected by it, to gather together everyone who wants to be involved, and that should be an opportunity for everyone who was involved if they want to participate, but really importantly, this shouldn't be compulsory. Once you've got everyone gathered together, it's important to facilitate a quiet or non-interrupted environment, at least, where a flow can be encouraged. Okay, and it's, I think, also important to make sure that people aren't under too much pressure with a caseload that they have to go and run off to deal with. It shouldn't be something to add pressure to people's day. In that mind, it should be made very, very clear this is a maximum of around 5 minutes of their time. This is not a protracted exercise in debrief. Really important to realise this is also not a psychological debrief. That's a process that comes much later and must be supported by the correct processes. This is an emotional debrief to highlight things that went well and things that didn't go so well. Okay, so the process we're going to use is called Stop for 5 minutes. The S stands for summarising the case, a very, very brief summary of what happened and a chance for anyone who saw something different to pipe in from their point of view to make sure everyone's on the same page of the context of the situation to be discussed. Next, we move on to things that went well, and that's important to do this towards the start because it puts everyone in a positive frame of mind, very reflectful and a positive frame to move forward with. Okay, things that went well may be individual things, they may be process and system things, they may be equipment things or training things. It doesn't matter. Anything that anyone wants to pipe up and they feel good about, this is a really good opportunity to discuss that. Once those have been aired, it's time to talk about opportunities for change or improvement. Now, it's really important that this isn't a blame game. This is not the time and place for highlighting individuals' problems. This is more about system problems, process, training, or equipment, that kind of thing. Anything we can change really quickly to improve patient safety and or clinical practice. It's really important that it's shared that this is going to be confidential. So people's individual input into this is not going to be named and shamed at all. The outcome of a Stop for 5 minutes is an action list. So the P is points to action and then the responsibilities. It's not going to be a full set of minutes of who said this, who said that. And really important that this is proactive as well. Those points to action need to be things which can be changed or can be escalated for change. It's no point putting in something that's never ever going to be changed. That's not the process of a hot debrief. But those small, really quick to change things, or at least escalate to someone that can make a change. That is the important point of a hot debrief. Also, really, really important that whoever's writing all this down is not the person leading it. It's very, very difficult to lead a hot debrief and scribe. So right at the beginning, it's worth thinking about whether or not you need a scribe who was or wasn't involved, depending on the circumstances. Personally, I like to have an external scribe involved because then there's no personal input from the scribe themselves. It's just a verbatim writing down what people said. At the end, the scribe may be agreed that by the leader and the scribe that they output this list of actions and to-dos. It's worth discussing at the time who's going to do what, but then following it up with a list to everyone who's involved so they can see that there's an agreement had. Hopefully this has only taken a few minutes, maximum 5, possibly 10 minutes is very complex and or someone has a lot to say, but you need to make sure that it's chaired very well and kept very, very short. So that's hot debriefing. There's not much more you need to know. It just needs to be inclusive. Let everyone have a short say. Let them highlight in a place where they where they feel safe to speak, and hopefully we can take forward any patient safety or clinical safety messages to get them escalated and change put into place. Welcome to the Community Clinical Care Podcast, broadcast from Shropshire in the UK.